guys? Welcome to a brand new episode of a new segment that we're trying out here called Down in the DMs. So it's Masters Saturday, so I hope you can see we've got a little bit of the green accents going on. I'm even rocking a green watch as I'm going to be tuning in, watching the Masters a little bit later today. Anybody who's a golf fan out there saw how Rory is absolutely tearing up the field, and I hope you guys have a great Saturday after you check out some of this awesome content. So Down in the DMs is going to be all about how we communicate some of the questions that we're getting across all of our different platforms. So from Instagram, emails, DMs, comments on our posts, we've got a lot of amazing leaders out there asking some really good questions, and this is a real cool format where we're going to be able to kind of dive into what some of those questions and some of those answers could look like. So let's get into it. All right, so first question that we have today is from one of our individual viewers named Mark. Now, this is a comment that actually came from one of our other social posts, and a little bit of content about Mark is, I run a small disability service org in Georgia. I've got 22 employees, most disability service organizations who are hourly and barely have time to breathe. Kind of sounds like a lot of the organizations we support. We've been using email and robocalls to reach out to families that we serve, and our open rates are dismal. Someone suggested that we use SMS, but our board thinks that it's too casual for professional organizations. All right. So the question that came from Mark is, my board says texting families of adults with disabilities feels unprofessional. How do I make the case that SMS is actually the most respectful channel for this population? All right. So first of all, professionalism is something that is incredibly important for any organization. And the one thing that I want to kind of attack here is, what is professional? Is it being able to support people where they are, being able to meet them where their attention sits, and being able to serve them in multiple channels? This is exactly the kind of conversation that I have with a lot of organizations that we support. Many people say, hey, SMS doesn't seem professional, but it's all about the way in which we use it with intention. If we're going to provide additional resources, updates, and engagement, that at the end of the day is the best way in which we can support the families of the individuals who we support. So imagine, let's kind of run through this little scenario. What's worse? On the weekend, getting a text message from the organization that supports your loved one, asking if you need any additional resources and being able to provide resources to them through SMS, where their attention's at in a private way, or not being able to answer the bell on a weekend. Somebody needs help, they have support, they reach out to the organization, they call the phone number, they get a voicemail because you guys aren't open on Saturdays. Being able to leverage professional communication is all about the voice and how you approach that communication. And so I would really kind of sway away from the professionalism framing and just recognize that the best way that you can show up for your clients truly is to be wherever they are. And that means being multimodal. Email's great, like you talked about. Robocalls are a great way to automate some of that engagement with some of your restraints. I totally understand where you're coming from on that one. But being able to leverage a scalable solution that meets people where they are, like SMS, is the most professional thing that you can do. As long as we're not, having, unprofessional conversations through that, and we're respecting the channel and the times in which we're delivering messages, we have the ability to be incredibly professional through that frame. So, Mark, I hope that helps you out in today's conversation. Thanks for asking the question, and we look forward to hearing a little bit of your feedback. All right, let's move on to the next one. The next question is coming from another one of our viewers named Gwendolyn. This is actually a LinkedIn DM. A little bit of context about Gwendolyn. I'm an executive director of a housing stability program, nonprofit in Philadelphia. 45 staff, primarily grant funded. We've been slow to adopt new technology because every dollar has to be justified to our funders. Totally understand that. A program officer at one of our major foundations just told me that they want to see AI integration in the next renewal application. And Gwendolyn's question is, funders are now requiring AI integration as grant criteria. But if I add AI just as a checkbox, isn't that exactly what kind of mission drift we're supposed to avoid? Okay, so this is a great framework. Now, there's a couple things that we're seeing across the landscape of AI from my personal perspective. If we're just adding AI just to add AI, that's not really truly impactful, especially when it comes to the mission. And your funders at the end of the day are looking for impact, not just being able to check another box like you talk about here, Gwendolyn. So the one thing that I would suggest is making sure that the AI is actually going to make a substantial impact in the mission and how you serve your clients. Being able to show metrics and showing like, hey, the system is operational is not impact. but being able to use your system to talk about better engagement rates, better outcomes, the ability for you to kind of frame the data that should be coming from your system, such as, successful conversations, being able to share some of the stories that have actually transpired because of that communication channel, can be incredibly powerful. And so whenever you're adding AI, you need to actually look through the lens of saying, is this going to help us actually move the needle? Because if we're not moving the needle, then just adding another solution is just adding another solution. And we all know what happens when we add a solution. It's probably just going to sit on a shelf, and then your funders are going to feel good, but you're not actually going to be serving more people. So always make sure that your solution can be viewed through the lens of actually making an impact on the people who you serve. That's a huge mistake a lot of people are using or are kind of making right now is, I'm adding AI, but do I really know what the outcomes are, the improvements in my ability to serve the community or the community that I serve through this actual tool? And so you always want to make sure that you're looking through that lens. So once again, make sure that you're getting the outcomes and the impact that you get through investing into AI, not just have it as another bell and whistle. Great question, Gwendolyn. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, guys, our next question is coming from Tunde. This is actually one of the comments that was left on one of our posts. A little bit of context about Tunde is I am a co-founder of an ed tech startup serving Title I people or Title I school districts. We started 3 years ago. We took a small round of friends and family as capital to get this thing off the ground, but we refused VC money, which is totally understandable. Now, my co-founder is saying that we need to raise a Series A to compete across the landscape, but I fundamentally think that this change is going to change the people who we serve and how we serve them. So to reframe the question, my co-founder wants to raise venture capital, and I think it would turn us into something our district partners would stop trusting. How do I have that fight without ending the partnership? All right, so this is something that I crossed in my 11 years of building Francis, which is when is the right time to raise money? But more appropriately, is all money good money? And so it sounds like you and your co-founder right now are just talking about strategy, but we're looking at it through the eyes of a conflict, transparently. Because in order for you guys to be able to serve more people, you guys, of course, have to have more resources, which is totally understandable. But I think what we need to do is we need to look at this conversation through the lens of strategy rather than trying to battle over the spreadsheet numbers. Because more capital, of course, sounds good, but not all money is good money, especially when it comes to serving the people who you serve in your community. A couple things that I would think about is making sure that you and your co-founder are aligned on the vision of where you guys are going as an organization. Because of course you guys have the ability to bring in outside money, but that outside money also comes with commitments and also comes with influence that maybe you guys aren't prepared for strategically to be able to handle. Because it's not like anybody's just going to write you a check and say, hey, good luck, right? You're going to have to give up some sort of control when you give up or when you start taking in other people's money. So a couple things that you should really think about, but once again, just reverting back to the strategy conversation of where you are today, where you're going, and where you want the organization to be in the future is kind of the fundamental foundation of what you guys should be really talking about. Really appreciate that question, and that's something that a lot of business owners and founders specifically have to kind of cross at some point in time, which is how do we take in money? Do we take in money? Is the money that we're talking about taking in the way that the appropriate type of money that's going to help us get to where we want to get to? So guys, this has been absolutely amazing. Once again, this is our new segment called Down in the DMs. These have been some amazing questions that we got today, and I hope you guys can appreciate the perspective that we're bringing to these questions and just being able to share them so more people can get involved in these conversations. Once again, it is Masters Saturday at the time of recording this on April 11th, and we're really looking forward to kind of continuing this stuff. So my call to action for everybody out there is if you have questions, go ahead, leave comments, send me some DMs. You can engage with our other social channels like LinkedIn. You can go to our company page. You can send me DMs directly or any of the other team members inside the organization, Alexa, Lauren, Daryl, anybody else who you see and want to engage with, you're welcome to. Once again, I really appreciate you guys tuning in, and we look forward to catching you guys in the next one. This is going to be an exciting new segment that we're going to keep launching for you guys. All right? Take it easy. Have a good one.